This is a series about the biggest events in our lives. Everywhere on Earth, human societies have found ways to mark the rites of passage almost all of us go through.
You're so beautiful.
Thank you.
So I'm going to travel to some extraordinary places around the world to see how they celebrate the landmarks of life: birth, coming of age, marriage, and death.
Ritual has shaped our culture. It has come out of our natural bodily instincts, the way we behave, the way we move, the way we feel.
I'm Grayson Perry. I'm an artist. And in my work, I've always tried to cast an anthropological eye on the world I live in.
That spirit has just come all over my shirt.
And it seems to me that here in fast-changing, increasingly secular Britain, we're in danger of forgetting what a rite of passage can do for us.
I've been at funerals where the priest forgot the name of the deceased and their partner.
So I'm hoping the ceremonies I experience will have something important to teach us.
Look, what a privilege!
When I get back, I'll meet people in the UK who are going through the same events and who want to mark them in ways that feel true to their lives.
I'm really interested to talk to you about how we can help you have a really good death.
Together, we'll devise our own ceremonies, rites of passage for how we live now.
All rituals were invented by somebody. They didn't just come out of the ether from God.
In this programme, I've come to Bali, in Indonesia, to experience a rite of passage I've long wanted to see. Away from the crowded tourist beaches, in the lush green interior of the island, the Balinese still live a life imbued with delicate ritual. Essie and Kumang are a professional couple who run a family business. Tomorrow, their daughter Ochi will be 105 days old, the moment in Balinese tradition when she first fully becomes part of our human world. Until that point, it's seen as the height of misfortune if she should ever touch the ground. So every waking moment of her life so far, Ochi has been held and passed around from hand to hand.
How will you feel tomorrow when Ochi touches the ground for the first time?
Mungkin secara emosional, upacara menyambut besok saya pasti sangat saya tunggu-tunggu. Pasti saya sangat terharu ya dengan acara besok. Karena apa? Besok waktunya mungkin secara... Bisa saya katakan secara apa sih kasarnya, besok itu dia sudah bisa mulai menyentuh tanah, dia sudah harus realistis sama hidupnya, sama keadaan sekitarnya, dia sudah harus merasakan apa itu keras, apa itu dingin di tanah, biar nggak apa ya lebih terharu lah saya gitu loh.
For me, when I heard about this ritual of holding the baby all the time, I cried.
Oh, terharu.
It's like you are making a bridge from inside of you to the world, and there's like an in-between place. It's like a kind of a womb, exterior womb. It's so beautiful.
The day of Ochi's birth ceremony dawned. From early in the morning, the family, the neighbours and the entire community were preparing for the ritual they call her Nyambutin. After 3 months of living in not quite human yet limbo, Ochi's tiny feet would finally, gingerly, touch the ground. Hello!
Hello!
Hello, your big day! Your big day! There's Mummy. Look, what a privilege! Your big day! Your big day! Well, it's the last moments in the spirit world. I'm holding her, I'm part of it. I feel so privileged. Here we go. Becoming a part of the real world. Oh, want Mummy, want Mummy. Most of the people that have held little Ochi are probably here today, you know, and everybody's having a last little cuddle. It seems to be part of the ritual. And many rituals seem to come out of our everyday experience. But what we're seeing here, in a way, is that whole idea of it takes a village to raise a child, and it's, you know, her upbringing is actually bringing people together physically. And it doesn't matter, you know, whether your spiritual connection is super strong or not. You're doing it, and it's part of it, and it's informing your body. And everybody here is, you know, doing what we all do with children, hugging them close. But here it's formalised. We're all taking part in making this little 3-month-long exterior womb. So her transition into the harsh realities of the world are that little bit softer, that little bit lovelier.
You going to mug me?
Am I going to mug you?
Is that gorgeous or what, eh?
And I believe I can run a decent marathon.
Thank you very much.
Download Veely now.
The colour, the noise, the smell, the precision, the glamour of it, in a way, it's overwhelming. I mean, it's a sensual overload, and it's having a physical effect on me. I don't know what it's doing for everyone else. It's creating a kind of universe, framing how we're meant to feel, getting us ready for the big moment. And this is something that goes back a long time, and it's not just theatre. We're not just here to watch a spectacle. We are part of it as well. Everybody here is doing something. And all of this is a marvellous, multi-layered frame for how we feel about a little child coming into the world.
The climax of the ceremony arrived. In the form of a small bowl of dirt and flowers on the ground, little Ochi was about to feel, for the very first time, the hard realities of life. To bring a new person into the world is surely one of the most consequential things we can do in our lives. And I'd seen in Bali what felt like a timeless way to acknowledge that. Now I wanted to find out if ceremonies like this could work for the very different ways we bring babies into the world in Britain. I looked for the most modern and high-tech stories of childbirth I could think of. It's 7:45 in the morning at the neonatal unit of Brumfield Hospital in Chelmsford, and the day nurses are about to begin their 12-hour shift.
Casper is on 4 bottle feeds. He is fine in himself. He keeps dipping his sats when he's squirming. And Ezra is on his 3 hourly feeds. He's completing alternate bottles. Then in room 8, you've got Hunter and Indy May Patton, who are now 23 days old. Hunter is in nasal cannula or air up to 0.03 overnight. Still is on the minimal amount of caffeine because he is tachycardic.
All I understood was these bits, how old they were born at, yeah? Pretty young. What's the youngest you would get on this board that would survive?
Because of our level unit, we keep anything above 27 weeks. But if they came before that time, we would stabilise and then we would ship out to our tertiary centre, which is Cambridge.
Yeah, 26 weeks, considering what term is 40 normally, that is really, really little. Do you think you need a certain sensibility to work on this unit?
I would say we're all quite kind, aren't we, on here? Like,
Quite calm.
yeah, quite calm. Love babies, obviously. We love a cuddle.
And is there a whole science of how you ease the kind of newborn into the world?
Yeah, especially with the extreme premature babies. They don't tend to like to be stroked like that. They don't like that as much. They like to be held, so hand on head, hand on feet, and it kind of makes them feel secure as if they were in the stomach again. With the premature, like the really premature babies as well, we'll put a blanket over the top of the incubator to block out the sound and the light. If it's too noisy or too bright, they can drop their heart rates, they can drop their oxygen levels. They're very sensitive to it. Once they're out having cuddles with the mum, you'll see their heart rate stabilises, their temperature maintains well, their breathing kind of settles. They love it. So yeah, lots of cuddles.
Hello.
A fortnight ago, Lindsay and David came to Brumfield for what they thought would be a routine scan. But complications with Lindsay's pregnancy meant their twins, Indy May and Hunter, had to be born by emergency caesarean, 3 months premature.
All right.
Indy May is still very poorly, but today Lindsay's been encouraged to pick up Hunter for only the 2nd time in his short life.
Yeah, it's scary.
I know. Yeah, perfect.
Hello.
All right.
The blanket.
So then I'll get your blanket out.
What's it been like, sort of having to have your children, but you're not able to sort of touch them?
It's just an emotional roller coaster. It really is, isn't it? We've got a 5-year-old son at home. We have to get him to school. And Indy May only came into this room yesterday, so she was in another room. So it was knowing which baby to come to first when you come onto the ward. But at least you can go home every day knowing they're in safe hands. And they almost take them on as if they're their own children, don't they, you feel? Especially in the early days. Because Indy May was 15 hours and Hunter before I got to meet either of them. So for 15 hours I was a mum who'd never met her children.
Because they were whisked away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened to us. I followed my daughter Florence. I went off with her, and I was sort of in a place like this. I was looking at the incubator, going, "Oh my God," and Phil was upstairs, not happy. I don't think she'd even seen the baby, because
That's what you was. Yeah.
And that's an odd feeling. It's an odd feeling, isn't it, as the father?
I was rushed in to sort of show them. I didn't know where to look, what to do. I was all a bit overwhelmed with it all, really.
You're going to form quite a relationship with the staff here.
Yeah, well, we could be here another 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I had a moment last week, Wednesday. I just broke down in tears, and the nurses just because I had 2 babies in 2 different rooms, and one of the nurses was like, this mum needs both her babies here now, and they did, it took an hour, they did everything they could and got both babies in the same room and got me sat between them, holding Hunter, and it was just, yeah. So they look after us mums as well, so it's lovely.
The word that's really key is trust, and that's why we're here. If we think of our community and support of our village, especially around important times like birth, we have to depend on other people who perhaps have more skills and experience. And of course here, it's incredibly high-tech and incredibly modern science. And yet, that relationship of trust of the parent to the doctors and the nurses is the same as it would have been to the midwives and priests of ancient times. We haven't lost it, it's still there.
I'd returned to the neonatal unit, but for my second birth ceremony, I met another family having babies in a thoroughly 21st century way.
Oh, look at this, is stretching its arm. Look.
Laura is having her 25-week scan at Darlington Memorial Hospital.
Look at
There
this.
you go. She's going again. Told you, she's a right wriggler.
Sarah and Cobby's fertilised embryos have been implanted into her womb.
Beautiful, look.
She's such a wriggler.
And there's the echogenic bowel.
This very modern family is going to have twins.
I know there are babies,
Yeah.
but I suspect that, speaking for myself, that until they're in our arms, there's an element of fear that something might still go wrong.
Yeah.
I suspect that's probably the true of any parent, whether you're carrying or not carrying.
It's like if it's your first or second experience, it's like, oh, it's normal pregnancy. You're not exposed to the bad experience. And like I said, there's always fears, but being through the whole process and then that, seeing the scans and seeing well, Laura sent us a picture of the belly grows and everything, it becomes very realistic. You know, you're getting there, and it's not far away from in the future. You're just looking for what?
So we're just over halfway now.
Yeah, it's a twinkling.
So we're getting there. So now it's on a countdown now. We've done the big count up to 18 and a half weeks, and now it's a countdown till 37 weeks.
Yeah.
Their foot. So one is facing with tummy upwards, and the other one's facing tummy downwards. So literally.
Sarah and Cobby have been longing for children for over a decade.
In 2008, we got pregnant for the first time. But it was like a switch flicked, and the minute we found out we were pregnant, it was like the thing I wanted the most in the world ever. So our first pregnancy, everything was fine until I think it was just after 8 weeks, I miscarried. We ended up in what we then started to call the sad room, because we ended up in the sad room quite a lot. And I guess at the first, you don't ever think that this is something that you cannot do and is going to happen. But it happened to me a lot and again, and it got to 10 in the end.
When we found out about surrogacy, it was like within a week we can find out that information, see how it's working, and we just jump on that opportunity.
The week that Cobby discovered Surrogacy UK, there was a social in Leeds, literally around the corner from where we live. It's the first time they'd ever had one in Leeds.
It was just instant friendship and an instant connection there and then.
People watching this, they're going to be thinking, this is quite, the surrogacy is quite sort of unusual, and it sort of sounds a bit like Handmaid's Tale or something, sort of almost to some people. So the question, begging is, Laura, why did you want to become a surrogate mother?
Just the fact that my body is there and it works absolutely fine, and I just don't have a use for it, if I'm honest. Because
there's lots of people whose body works fine and they don't want to become surrogate mothers. So I'm sort of wondering what's special about you that you wanted to give this sort of gift.
My kids really did change my life. and I could never imagine being in the position where I couldn't have them. So to be able to give that gift to a couple that can't, especially like Sarah and Cobby and that, I just think that they're such deserving parents, and it is not their fault that obviously Sarah's body doesn't work in the way that it should.
We've got to a point where we think this dream is never going to happen, and then you get these women who give you hope and possibility that actually that door hasn't shut, it's just opened in a different direction.
We met up again at Sarah's baby shower in a village hall outside Leeds, and it seemed at first like a very modern gathering. A room filled with so-called IPs, intended parents, and their surrogates, taking part in a ritual recently imported from America.
This sort of meeting of the sacred and the profane, I think, is just natural. It's just that nowadays, in the kind of manufactured 21st century present, it can grate a bit sometimes that we're being sold something to kind of power a situation which is genuinely powerful. You know, the bringing of a child into the world, someone's flogging tat on the back of it. But I think we've got to get used to that. You know, it was always thus, but it's much more obvious now.
I'd come to Yorkshire with questions in my mind about why a mother would willingly give away a baby. But that's not how this group of women saw it at all.
So I understand that you're all surrogates, is that right?
Yeah.
Have you, I mean, Laura I know is, you know, pregnant and on the way, so have you all done it already?
I've had 2 little girls for 2 different families, and I'm trying for a third now for a separate family.
Do you have an ongoing relationship with the parents and the children?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a big myth that the baby is handed over. I do bond with the child. I love the bond that I have with my surrogate children. I've never handed a baby over. It's just we work together as a team, like Laura is with Sarah and Cobby, to create these twins. When they're born, they'll just be extended members of the team.
You're not just creating parents, you're creating grandparents and aunties and uncles, and that feeling goes on forever. You know, it's so nice to get photos, you know, of the little girl that I helped create, you know, and see her grandparents and how happy they are to spend time with her. You can't put a price on that, even if it is a bit of discomfort for yourself. You know, it's so worthwhile to be able to do that.
An interesting reflection that I've had at this baby shower is of that ceremony in Bali, where the child was held for 3 months, not just by the parents, but by the relations, by the neighbours, by the friends. And that concrete fact of that you must not allow the child to touch the earth was a kind of framework in which to build this community around the child, which is what we're doing here, you know, which is what is happening in this hallway in many ways. It's a relationship between adults that starts long before conception and goes on for the whole life of the people involved. In thinking we're coming here to look at something that had never happened before, we've found something that's always been happening. It's food for me as an artist to think about the story of life.
I've come back to Chelmsford to spend more time shadowing the nursing team at an NHS neonatal unit. Halfway through the frankly exhausting 12-hour shift, I started to feel a strange, almost hypnotic sense of calm.
There's lots of cliches about hospitals that involve sort of doors slamming open and trolleys pushing along and you know, people squealing and screaming and you know, of a general air of sort of distress. And here, everything is precise and also flexible. It's a dance. It's a sort of a uterine dance. When I'm walking about in here, I sort of slightly feel I'm in sort of amniotic fluid. And I'm kind of like, Does that sound bizarre? Yeah. The drama of it is in its sort of significance, really, that we're seeing life being nurtured when in the past, it wouldn't have been. So we're seeing a kind of a slow motion miracle happen here over, sometimes 3 months.
Laura and Abby are nearing the end of their long progress through the unit. Their twin boys, Ezra and Casper, are the second of the slow-motion miracles I witnessed at the hospital. They've been cared for here for almost 100 days. Gosh, you seem very at home there. You know what button to push.
Yeah. Get used to it.
So this is like a second home.
Yeah, it's definitely second home.
It seems a very calm place.
It is. It makes me emotional talking about it, but no, it is. It's an amazing place.
What's emotional about it for you?
I think it's a journey more, it's the journey. And at 26 weeks, their skin is so thin and they're not, you can't even really hold them or touch them, or because if you did, their skin can break and they look lifeless. They're just stuck in sort of needles in their arms, cannulas in their arms. It's not nice to see them like your kids like that. To me, I just look at them and I just thought I wasn't going to make it, like.
So it's frightening.
Yeah, very.
Hospitals, they're sterile, they're necessarily, they look and feel how they look and feel.
Yeah.
And that often, it's like our dreams of kind of mother parenthood. We don't have fantasies about it, because most people have babies in hospitals. Yeah. And yet we don't, there's not a romance of the hospital. They're places we avoid.
Yeah. I suppose I think it is slightly different when you're in here for quite a while. You get to know all the staff, we get to know all the parents and things like that. And I think we're often going through the baby's journey as well. Obviously not as deep, but by the time they get down to this room, we're kind of preparing them to go home. So that's a nice feeling.
How do you think you'll feel when you leave?
I can't wait to leave and go home and lock the doors and lock the windows and just stay at home.
Have a bit of privacy.
Yeah, exactly. I think you need that when you've been in the unit for so long and you haven't had that time with just you and your baby or babies. We haven't had that yet. So.
It's 1 o'clock now on the ward, and this is the time when they quieten everything down. They don't do many procedures and they close the curtains down and everybody keeps quiet. I suppose, to emphasise really that we're in a womb here. This is a technologically driven replica of being inside their mother. This feeling of calmness around these tiny, delicate creatures is what really permeates me, that they shouldn't be born yet. They're still in their 3rd trimester. Some of them are months away from their due date, and it feels like we're on board a kind of spaceship drifting through inner space on our way to our time when they should have come. And so I think that's what I get really. And the crew all move around with sort of almost wraith-like care, because everything is so delicate. So every little wire, every little instrument, every little piece of nappy and cloth has to be moved about so delicately, because these babies could tear. And I think that's the feeling I get, is that it's all calm and slow and gentle, and we're aware. the little twinkling lights as we pass through this kind of limbo land. And then in months, in weeks, these little lives will pop into the daylight of their childhoods. Well, that caught me out.
Just as I started to worry that the artist in me might be getting a bit carried away, I met the most senior scientist on the unit, consultant paediatrician, Dr. Syriac.
Where's Mum? Mum is behind. Don't want to be...
So how much of your job, would you say, is social and ritualistic as opposed to medicinal and scientific?
I think the human body has got amazing capacity to heal. Actually, it's not the doctors who heal the body, it's actually the human body itself has got a healing process. So when a mother, the child comes to my office, distressed and things, if I can get her to walk out of my office reassured with a smiley face, actually I haven't done anything to the child yet, okay? I've already given maybe a prescription or something like that, but I know that the child will get better. Because actually it's the healing sort of vibrations of the mother which actually is the healer for the child, to be honest with you. Give a little bit more emphasis to the breast milk here.
I'm very touched by it because, you know, what I witness here is care in its broadest sense, which is sort of love, you know, and its attention. The phrase that was rattling around my mind when I was in Bali was always, it takes a village to raise a child. The NHS, in many ways, we can see this behemoth of the NHS, but in fact it's sort of series of villages, you know. And often we forget it in these great grey factories of hospitals, that we are practicing a kind of communal love of life.
I planned to return to Broomfield Hospital for a ritual that expressed what I'd felt here. As Laura, Abby, Casper and Ezra finally got to leave the unit after being here for 100 days, I was struck by what a life-changing rite of passage I was witnessing, and how bereft of ceremony the Balinese would think our lives are. Then I got some news from Sarah and Cobby, and dashed up to the West Yorkshire village where they live.
Hello! Wow.
Come in, so they're not in the cold. You're going to have a cuddle.
Very careful. Oh. It's funny, it has quite a strong effect on me, actually. Because I had my little girl
And also, you've seen them from being a bump.
Yeah. Wow.
We picked Laura up at 6:30 in the morning on Monday, and we drove to the hospital, and it was just really surreal. We walked in, we'd got our bags, I've got photographs of us walking into the hospital. It was so surreal. So they took us down about 11:15. I did a playlist for us. So we've got a picture of Laura lying on the operating table with my phone next to her ear, and we were just playing lots of really nice music just to relax, and she and I were chatting and cracking jokes. And the next thing you know, we just heard a baby cry, and I just went, oh my God, it's a baby. And yeah, they literally brought them out a minute between, so 11:36 and 11:37. And then I think it's probably one of the most proudest moments to be able to walk out with our two daughters and to present them to Cobby and introduce him to his girls.
It was a complete shock, suddenly seeing Sarah holding two babies at the same time, coming towards you.
I was quite impressed that I managed to master the double holding straight off.
Yeah, I could imagine.
It was so scary, they were so tiny. Still are still tiny. Do you want to try two?
Try two? Yeah. Oh, God. That'd be
you mastered one.
Here we go, then. Come on, then. Let's give it a go. Look at this. Oh. Oh. How are you? Oh, you're a bit... it's tricky, isn't it? Well,
when you master it, honestly, it's amazing how fast you adapt.
Now you've actually got the babies here. Have you thought at all about how it, continues with Laura and things like that?
I think she's going to be the auntie that spoils them.
So this is the sculpture that I'm going to give to Sarah and Cobby and Laura. This is going to be shrunk down to 1/4 of its size and then cast into silver. This whole program about birth, I've been kind of surprised a few times by the strength of my reaction to the events I've witnessed. I mean, the early stages of a child's life, when everything is incredibly malleable at a very primal level. What it is to be a human, how do you interact with other humans, what is the world, am I loved? These things are just intuited by this little child, and maybe there's something about my own experience that is responding to that. We've all been that little baby, that little child in a parent's arms, feeling vulnerable and having very basic needs, whether they're met or not. And there's something in us that responds to that and echoes, did we get that? Was it good enough? And we're moved by that, especially when I see it done so well. This is what I'm celebrating.
It's wonderful to welcome everybody here today. It's a privilege to be here for you both, Sarah and Cobby, and an honor to welcome new life to your family and to your new community.
Sarah and Cobby are Jewish, so they already have a rich and ancient heritage of ritual to draw on.
Eloheinu v'le'avotenu kayem et hayalda hazot la'aviha u'li'ima.
At their traditional naming ceremony for the twins, all I had to add was my own small celebration of the very 21st century part of their story. Laura's been unwell, so couldn't make it on the day, but Laura, Sarah and Cobby will have a lifelong connection through the twins they've jointly brought into the world. And that's what I wanted my contribution to the ceremony to celebrate.
So here's the artwork which I've made for this ritual today. It's solid silver, and the two parts are joined by this chain. In the case of Cobby and Sarah and Laura, the womb and the DNA, the egg and the sperm, they were kind of geographically parted, which is a very modern situation, and in many ways this here is to celebrate them coming back together. Because we have a kind of Jewish naming ceremony as well, the village that's raising the child isn't just the family and the friends and the neighbours, but it's also a wider community. So it should be passed from hand to hand, really.
to sort of symbolise the care. People are going to have to do this carefully. And they're also going to feel the weight of it. And the weight perhaps is, you know, a little symbol of the responsibility we all hold for those children. Because Laura has done something that is inconceivable to many people. She has carried their baby inside her body for nothing, for no reward, apart from the joy of giving. And I want this little silver fetus in a little silver womb to symbolise that generosity. This silver jewel is ultimately a present for the twins. I wanted you to kind of promise a sort of a contract, really, that if I give this to you now, I want you to promise that the first time you see Laura, you give it to her to keep until the next time she sees you. And then you can keep doing that until the children are old enough to take ownership of it. Okay? This is you and Cobby, and this is Laura. What ritual does is it's physical. We do something. We welcome that baby. We wrap them in a shawl. We hold them. We're not only giving them a name, we're also giving them their identity. And from birth, they're taking that on. And so the ritual with which we welcome them into the world is that most primary scaffolding of a personality. It's really important. And if it's loving and joyous and a sensory pleasure, then surely that can only help to bring up a happy child, a contented child, a child who feels safe in the world. And that's all we want, really, is one that feels held by their family, by their village, and maybe by their beliefs. For my final birth ceremony, I've come back to the neonatal unit in Chelmsford. What these little golden babies are gifts for the staff here at the neonatal unit. They're talismans of life and love. Oh, hello. New mums, Laura and Lindsay, have brought their families back to the ward to help me. Together we're going to stage a ceremony that will mark the special modern magic of their children's birth. How long were you here altogether?
73 days with Hunter and 80 days with Indy May.
God.
So, yeah, just got home.
And Laura, how long have you been back now?
A couple of months now, I've been home, and it's been amazing. And the staff they've been amazing. They were amazing, and we still come in contact with them, and they're all brilliant there.
Hello. If you can come round here. We were thinking how we would ritualise this moment, and oh, perfect soundtrack for this particular occasion. I wanted to do something that kind of not just celebrated medicine, but the NHS and you particularly. For all the kind of technical wonders and skills that you bring to this ward, there is something that is, I think, just as important, which is your humanity. So now I would ask Laura and Lindsay to say a few things, because these are the people you've helped.
That's what I do.
I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for everything you've done. Just, you saved my babies.
Yeah, it's amazing what you do on, not for our babies, but for everyone. Definitely keep doing what you're doing.
So now I would like to ask Laura and Lindsay to give each of you one of these little golden babies as a kind of the spirit of all the little lives you've helped bring into the earth.
Thank you.
Having been around the world looking at different sort of rituals, I think that their main job is to sort of bring home how we feel about things and how important they are. And I think that it would be a nice idea if we had more rituals around something as important as the NHS, because these institutions, they are the pillars of our society. And it's as near as we've got in this country to a religion. And this is just a little high-tech nativity. I hope the NHS is still around when you're an old person and you need it all again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you.